After 20 years together, my wife cheated abroad, gave up custody for her affair partner. Let her go, then I sent a file, ruined their life. We covered this story a long time ago, and OP made some new updates. At 47, I lead a comfortable and contented life. I am fortunate to have 3 amazing children, M7, F7 and F5, a beautiful wife, Glenda 45, and a career that I genuinely love. I also reside in a good suburb. Glenda and I have always seemed like a perfect fit. But a recent email I got has made me quite uneasy and given me cause for concern. Glenda studied for her PhD while residing in the UK from 2011 to 2014. She spent so much time there that she formed many close friendships, and she has made it a point to visit every few years to keep those relationships strong. She spent 3 weeks in the United Kingdom last August to attend a close friend's wedding. After giving it some thought, we decided that it would be better for me and the kids to stay at home because I couldn't take that much time off from work and the kids wouldn't likely enjoy it. Life resumed as usual for us once Glenda left and returned as planned. I got an email at my work address last week. According to the rumors, it came from Glenda's buddy Kane's wife, M45. This woman claims that she has good grounds to believe that Kane and Glenda had an affair. She enumerated her suspicions. Kane had picked Glenda up at the airport, stayed at her hotel for a long period, and often went out to supper by himself. She even supplied a snapshot of a lipstick smear on Kane's shirt and images of my wife's earrings, which she said she had discovered in his pockets while washing laundry. I can identify the color as one that Glenda frequently wears. She mentioned further pieces of proof, but I won't publish them here for the sake of conciseness. It was a lot to take in. I did my best to ignore it for a while because I assumed it was a joke. However, I continued thinking about it. I recall that my wife would speak with all of her friends there before to her trip. She most likely spoke with Kane the most, though I'm not sure if this email is affecting my recall. I also know that Glenda never liked Kane's wife, but I'm not sure why. Although I've never done it before, I'm inclined to hack Glenda's phone and social media accounts right now. But I'm aware that if I searched and found nothing, I'd feel awful. Would she simply erase everything out of fear of being discovered if I started acting suspicious? I'd appreciate any advice as I'm not sure how to proceed. Right now, the best solution I can think of is to confront her about her phone, and then ask to view it right away to prevent her from deleting anything. However, a part of me believes that this would aggravate her and possibly indicate nothing at all. After I received an email accusing my wife of infidelity, what do you think about asking her to show me her phone? Edit. My wife no longer owns those earrings, which I neglected to mention. When she came back, she was not wearing them. She claimed to have misplaced them when I questioned her. Update after 10 days. I confronted Glenda a few hours after I shared my first post. She validated my suspicions. She says she can no longer live a lie since she is in love with Kane. She says she can't be with us any longer, but she still insists she loves me and the kids. She said that she was holding off on telling me and the kids until a better moment. This has apparently been going on since March, with Glenda meeting Kane in secret and him periodically traveling out here. We are divorcing each other. Glenda will shortly be relocating to the UK. She acknowledged that she went to a job interview in August in addition to the wedding. She is scheduled to begin sometime in the new year. She intends to move in with Kane and has already applied for a British visa. Regarding custody, Glenda is willingly giving up her right to full custody. The children will remain with me in Canada because she doesn't want to move them. One part of me respects that choice, but another part of me is shocked at how effortlessly she's leaving. I would prefer to raise my kids without her financial influence, but she wants to pay child support. Regardless of how I feel, the court will probably insist for support. In addition, Glenda is requesting structured visitation rights, which will probably be granted considering the situation. According to what I've been informed, the court typically favors agreements that let both parents to continue having contact with the children, even if one of them is moving abroad. Although the specifics are still being worked out by the lawyers, it appears that she will receive visitation during vacations and school breaks, with the potential for virtual calls in between. I have been trying to make things as cordial as possible, and Glenda tends to agree with my needs more when I am more agreeable. We are also talking about our home's future. Glenda has stated that she wants to split the money from the sale of the property. The family home was purchased during our marriage, so even though I am hesitant to give it up, I probably don't have much of an option. As of right now, no decisions have been taken. Our lawyers are still sorting out the specifics. Considering the circumstances, it might take a long time for us to come to an agreement. I've been told not to make any significant financial decisions in the interim. Even while I would really prefer to stay here with the kids, I realize that selling is probably unavoidable. Kane has flown here to stay with Glenda, who is now staying at an Airbnb. At some point soon they intend to visit the United Kingdom. According to my attorney, adultery is not a reason for preferential treatment in terms of child custody or property split. Thus, unless marital finances are directly involved, it won't affect how assets are distributed. Money from her personal account was probably used by Glenda. It's unlikely that this will matter in court unless it can be demonstrated that she funded the affair with our combined funds. Fiona, Kane's soon-to-be ex-wife, and I have been in frequent contact, mostly via email, though we have lately had a few phone conversations. Fiona expressed regret for disclosing the affair to me, stating that she felt bad about it and that perhaps my marriage might have been saved if she hadn't. I informed her that, in my opinion, divorce was unavoidable due to the seriousness of the problem, and I would prefer not to be kept in the dark about something so important. In the legal aspect, it doesn't really matter because Glenda is publicly acknowledging the affair, even though she sent me messages and other proof of their relationship. I've heard a lot about Kane from Fiona as well. She apparently has had enough of his cheating on her for the third time. She claims that there is no possibility of reconciliation this time, and he shows no desire in making an effort. She said that the reason Glenda isn't pursuing custody is because Kane has no desire to raise children that aren't biologically his. Given that she and Kane both want full custody of their children and disagree on a number of other matters, Fiona's divorce will probably be far more drawn out and lengthy than mine. The last 2 weeks have been a complete blur, and I haven't had much time to take it all in. That being said, I am positive that I have nothing left for Glenda. It's not that she betrayed our marriage. Rather, it's that she leaves our kids so readily. I never imagined that I could be so hateful of someone I had loved. It's an odd sensation. The children are the most difficult aspect of all of this. It's been really challenging to explain the situation to my 2 youngest girls, who have begun to inquire as to why their mother isn't around as much these days. My oldest has become quieter and more reclusive as a result of his apparent increased understanding. My family has been really supportive thus far, which is a blessing. I've been reading to my kids every night the many heartfelt messages they've received from some of their cousins. One of my brothers and his wife drove out to visit over the weekend, and all of my siblings have brought gifts for the children. Even so, my sister-in-law made a ton of food, some of which is still frozen. While I was meeting with my lawyer, they also kept the kids occupied. In addition, my other siblings have volunteered to visit and watch the children whenever I need them. In addition, my mother, who is 78 years old, has already arranged to visit with us for 2 weeks in November to assist with household chores, and my parents have been calling every day to see how we are doing. My family's combined efforts have made this journey much more tolerable, and I sincerely appreciate all of their help. I appreciate everyone who urged me to get in touch with Glenda following my previous post. Fiona's message persisted in bothering me, despite my temptation to disregard it. Your counsel inspired me to take action. Glenda has proven to be dishonest, and I am confident that her notion of a better time was just when it would be least inconvenient for both her and Kane. Updated almost a month later. Consider this more of an opportunity to complain than an update. I've had more time to think about my predicament, and I now realize that during our marriage, Glenda frequently visited the UK. I think she is lying when she says that she started having an affair with Kane in March 2024. Given how much she had already planned by the time I confronted her, it's quite likely that this has been going on for years. Everyone, including myself, has realized that she has been preparing this for a while. In actuality, she had some legal documents ready just a few days after our altercation. Furthermore, it was evident that they had arranged for her to inform me approximately around this date beforehand when Kane arrived in Canada soon after I encountered Glenda. It makes plausible that Glenda was ready and was only waiting for favorable circumstances to present themselves. She had, after all, long since applied for her visa, found employment, valued her car, our family car, but it was in her name, and sent personal belongings to the UK with Kane during his covert visits, all without my knowledge. Although Glenda will never reveal its depth to me, I feel like I'm just touching the surface and have no idea how far this really goes. Not only that, but even before I confronted her, Glenda had already started communicating with her attorney. Given everything, it's difficult not to question if she got her position even sooner than she said, maybe to give the impression that her actions were less premeditated. Since then, two of Glenda's friends have contacted her to convey their surprise and displeasure with her behavior. As far back as late August or early September, Glenda had been consulting her divorce lawyer. According to another friend, Muriel, one of them said, "My belief that Glenda had been shipping some of her possessions to the UK when Kane was visiting was also supported by this same buddy. I may be driving myself a bit crazy, but some things stand out since I've been having trouble sleeping and mentally reliving the last few months. For instance, Glenda had 3 full luggage with her when she traveled to the UK for the wedding in August. Even though it seemed a little extravagant at the time, I didn't question her when she informed me they were full of gifts for her friends. After her trip, I picked her up from the airport and saw that the baggage were oddly light. I can only presume that she brought a number of her personal belongings to the UK in addition to the job interview she said she attended. This would account for the fact that she appeared to have worn less of her clothes since returning. I totally blame myself for being caught off guard despite everything. In retrospect, I see that I disregarded certain warning flags. I suppose I didn't believe Glenda could do this kind of thing. I question whether this result might have been completely prevented if I had previously been more firm and watchful. The worst part of all is that my kids are currently having to cope with the fallout from my foolishness and ignorance. My wife had practically established a new life while I fiddled with my thumbs. The majority of my acquaintances are now aware of my split from Glenda. When acquaintances and coworkers noticed my wedding band was missing, I told them why I had stopped wearing it. Given Glenda's travel habits and propensity for lying, a close friend of mine and numerous people who contacted me privately on Reddit have recommended that I have DNA tests done on the kids. Although I can see their perspective, I will never do this. Nothing can change my decision to never assign my children to another man. Up until now, life has been challenging without Glenda. Getting the kids ready and getting out the door has made mornings a stressful scramble. For over half of the week, I barely make it to work on time. To be honest, juggling all the additional parenting responsibilities I have throughout the day is taxing. In addition to everything else, I'm already dreading the chore of shoveling our wide driveway once the snow starts to fall at our current house. The tension is also being felt by the children. They detest my always hectic schedule, and don't especially enjoy the food I make most days. The fact that Glenda recently left for a leisurely trip around Europe with Kane while we're here struggling is really annoying. Our communication has decreased, and I was only recently made aware of these changes. After her vacation, I'm not sure if she'll go back to Canada or immediately settle into what will probably be a very pleasant life in the UK. Positively, I recently managed to get the kids to see their doctor. She provided me with a wealth of helpful information and guidance. She underlined that the most crucial elements for their adjustment were time and open communication. I'm hopeful, but I wouldn't be telling the truth if I claimed not to be concerned. I understand that it's very early, but they continue to act out frequently because they are still very unhappy about the whole situation. The fact that they are struggling to adapt to our new reality is obvious. My family has been a huge help over this whole ordeal. Things have already been a lot simpler when my mother showed up early last week as promised. Her cooking and time with the kids are enjoyable. I've been able to do other things because of her presence. I intend to name my oldest brother and sister-in-law as the children's legal guardians once the divorce is finalized. I feel a little more at ease knowing that they reside close by and have already committed to filling that role if necessary. But I don't think this will happen anytime soon. The procedure has slowed to a snail's pace because of Glenda's tardiness before her trip and my much busier schedule. Making decisions regarding our family home has been one of the most difficult parts of this whole process. After giving it a lot of thought and talking to my family a lot, I'm thinking about selling. Since Glenda sold our SUV just before she left the country, she has already offered me slightly more than half of the money at this point. Given that I made a substantial 40% contribution to the purchase, my lawyer has stated that it was premature of her to sell the SUV before we had finalized anything. In line with Glenda giving me more of the house, He believes I have good reason to ask for reimbursement elsewhere in our asset division. Given that I made between 65 and 70% of the down payment and monthly mortgage payments, receiving more than half seems reasonable. The family SUV was registered solely in her name, as I previously stated. But it's annoying that she sold it on her own since I paid for around 40% of it. Over the past few weeks, I've discovered that my sedan is too small for the kids and awkward for my mother to get in and out of while running errands. I'll have to exchange it for something bigger as a result. Glenda has kindly requested that I keep the appliances and furniture in exchange. I guess it's the least she can do. Even though I kind of wish we could stay in our existing house, it would definitely be best for us to move. Although Glenda is sure to meddle no matter where we go, I have a part of me hoping that this may help us avoid her in the future. In order to reduce my commute and put us close to a reputable school, I've been searching for townhomes nearer to my workplace. My sisters, however, pointed out that relocating the children at this time would require them to switch schools and lose their friends, which would be yet another significant adjustment for them. We could perhaps relocate to a smaller, easier-to-manage home near our current one. The children could continue attending the same school, and my workload would be lessened. The thought of moving to a new house without Glenda's memories is alluring, regardless of the option we select. The placement of our current house is just one more instance of my short-sightedness and foolishness. Compared to my own commute, Glenda's was far more convenient. For a while, it worked out because Glenda's job was close to the kids' school in case they needed her during the day. However, since my workplace is quite distant, all of this is now pointless. Glenda's family has not contacted me, and to be honest, I have no desire to do so. Regarding Glenda and Kane's future together, I hope their relationship succeeds. She is less likely to interfere with our lives the longer she remains steady. However, I find comfort in the fact that she is still ignorant of Kane's past of adultery. Fiona shares my belief that I have no moral duty to alert her to Kane's character. I've made it a point to visit Fiona frequently. Her family doesn't support her as much as mine does. Even though it's obvious that neither Kane nor Fiona want to make amends, her immediate family is enchanted by his considerable riches and feels she should do whatever it takes to keep him. Answering queries and worries after a month. Hi there. This post's primary goal is to provide clarification on a few issues that have surfaced in my private communications. I'll take advantage of this chance to address a number of these issues at once, and I appreciate your concern. First of all, I'm still getting used to things. Even though I've come to terms with the circumstance, I still occasionally feel resentful about it. Even if some days are worse than others, I'm adjusting and getting by. Overall, I no longer feel as overwhelmed by my circumstances. The children are still getting used to it. They've been through a lot, but they're strong. I'm thinking of signing them up for a program that helps kids of divorced parents. After my work slows down a little, I only need to find the time to thoroughly explore it. Regarding the dynamics of the home, some of the folks who have been emailing me appear to believe that Glenda's decisions were somehow justifiable because she was overworked. To clear up any confusion, she handled the majority of the domestic responsibilities before everything broke apart, with the split being about 60-40. On the other hand, she paid about 25% and I about 75% of living expenditures. In addition, Glenda took a lot more vacations by herself than I did, and I suppose we can all imagine how those went. I am also a competent cook. Since I've always been health conscious, the kids frequently liked Glenda's cooking style. I still have no plans to get my kids tested for DNA, even though numerous private communications have indicated otherwise. Glenda has taken up residence in Kane's apartment. It appears that Kane owns an apartment in the city to avoid commuting during the week. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Fiona claims that he would spend the weekends there and return to his home to spend time with her and the kids. He has been residing there full-time since the revelation of his most recent affair, and only visits to visit his kids. It is appropriate that Fiona also revealed that the apartment is where he conducted his prior affairs. In other news, I finally got a bigger automobile to replace my sedan. It's been one of the few things that has made me happy lately, although I spend a lot more than I probably should have. Last but not least, a lot of individuals have messaged me to say that I feel obligated to alert Glenda of Kane's past adultery and the possibility that he will cheat on her. I don't believe I have any responsibility for this. Perhaps Glenda is already aware and doesn't give a damn. Relevant top remark. First commenter. I'm glad you fixed the car. Make it a huge Christmas and get those youngsters settled in. Sale no work phone. If you want to be petty, engage your entire family as well. On Christmas Day, set up a time for your ex to call the kids that doesn't even consider the time difference. You're managing it like a pro, buddy, and you're doing well. Get things under control so that you can recover and begin living your life. Tell her about a happy family life and burn her. We now know at least what a fair partner was getting in exchange for his children. He probably wants to prevent his ex from forcing him to sell the apartment and take advantage of his family's fortune. OP. I appreciate the recommendations. The kids will undoubtedly enjoy the time we have planned to spend with relatives over the holidays. Second commenter. Even though you seem intelligent enough to know this, I'll say it anyway. When their relationship ends, please don't accept her back. Her words, "I didn't know what I had until it was gone," are already audible to me. Because burners are so inexpensive, we can have an open phone policy, which is a stupid one. I've loved you more than I've ever loved anyone. We can attend therapy. You deserve the best for yourself and the kids since, based on your articles, you are an incredibly amazing father. OP. I appreciate the guidance. Beyond co-parenting, I don't intend to become involved with her. Given how much she seemed to be enjoying her new life, I don't think she would want to return either. Third commenter. I appreciate the update. Telling the innocent, betrayed spouse that their partner is cheating is always necessary, in my opinion. Because of Kane's adultery with her, Glenda is well aware that he is a liar and cheater. She doesn't need to know anything. Since he is a habitual cheater, it is expected that he will cheat once more. It's not your issue. She is to blame for attempting to establish a respectable relationship with an unfaithful person. She will soon learn the truth. Keep your mouth shut. Commenter 4. Stay positive and find happiness wherever you can. If you take the necessary steps to strengthen yourself and the little ones, you will all be more equipped to handle Glenda should she reappear and try to cause you problems. Update, 2 months following the previous update. Since a lot of people have been inquiring about how the kids and I have been doing, I've decided to give a little update. Since I don't have much free time in my present schedule, I apologize for not being able to finish this sooner. Things are a little better thus far. Since I hired a nanny to help with the kids and around the house, life has been easier. I've been able to concentrate more on my work since she takes care of a significant amount of the weekly tasks. Although I enjoy my work, I've been working longer hours lately to manage our expenses. My bills have been piling up quickly due to a car I undoubtedly overpaid for, legal fees, and the nanny, Sal. I see fewer of the kids because of the longer hours, but I remind myself that this is only temporary. On the weekends when I don't have work, I try to find time for them, but even that has proven challenging. They're adapting gradually, but I'm aware that it will be a while before things feel even somewhat normal, if at all. I'm still determining our long-term residence. The house will most likely be sold at this point, and I want a location for the kids and myself that is unrelated to, well, you understand. I've been talking to Fiona less and less over the last few weeks. My schedule plays a part, but generally I don't understand the purpose. Speaking with her simply serves to remind me of how wonderful my previous life was. But the main, and most annoying reason is that Fiona has made the decision to stay with Kane. Even though he is still with Glenda, she says he respects her in some way, and has demonstrated dedication to their family. She claims that he has shown this dedication by respecting her space, and putting their kids before his current relationship. It is startling given that she was determined to finalize a divorce only a few months prior. However, she has now completely canceled those plans. However, perhaps I shouldn't be shocked. She has forgiven Kane in the past and acknowledges that this is not his first affair. Fiona and their kids continue to reside in the family home, while Glenda continues to live in an apartment that Kane owns. Kane divides his time between the two, spending the week in the apartment and returning home on the weekends and occasionally on weeknights. At the very least, Kane appears to accept Fiona's explicit declaration that Glenda is not permitted in the family home. During the week, Glenda seldom ever contacts the children, and when she does, it's only for little chats. Because these calls occur late in her time zone, she frequently whispers. She probably doesn't want to wake Kane awake. Glenda tries harder to engage with the kids on the weekends when Kane is with his own family. I'll admit that first I didn't consider getting even. I was too shocked, too wounded, and too preoccupied with getting through the mayhem Glenda had left behind. Retaliation, however, can occasionally result from clarity rather than rage. Making someone regret ever underestimating you is the finest way to respond to knowing that they treated your loved ones like a disposable option. There was a message at the beginning. Not to Glenda, not to Kane, but to Kane's business. After putting the kids to bed one evening, I took a seat and read over every message Fiona had given me. Screenshots, images, audio snippets. Not only had Kane cheated, but he had done it on company time, on company-sponsored vacations, and frequently while promoting his company abroad. Fiona stated that because of previous scandals, his firm had stringent rules about extramarital affairs while he was overseas. So I conducted some research. As it turns out, Kane was employed by a prominent international company that has a strict policy against behavior that would harm relationships with clients. Ethical activity that harmed the company's reputation was prohibited, not affairs in and of themselves that may have been fired. Everything was printed by me, made a tidy timeline. Every hotel reservation made during Glenda's friend visits. Kane billed the corporation for each picture of them together at events. I matched business flights to the dates he had flown out to see Glenda using his personal LinkedIn profile. I forwarded the complete package anonymously to the company's human resources department, blurring the faces of my children and omitting their names. Kane was placed on leave pending an internal review a week later. He was fired 2 weeks later. Silently yet firmly. Fiona attested to it. He violated contractual ethics clauses. It seems. I didn't care what the official explanation was. He lost the condominium the corporation had paid him, his fancy title, and his corporate card. He was forced to live with Glenda full-time. Poetic, given that he had cheated on both of his spouses in that apartment. Soon after, Glenda contacted me. She texted me late one night for the first time in weeks. Did you interfere with Kane's employment in any way? He is currently under a lot of stress. I laughed bitterly as I gazed at the message. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Her subsequent texts were increasingly urgent. The children are being impacted by this. Can we have a conversation? Here we're both in pain. I am aware that things went too far. Too much? No. This was the inevitable outcome of her decision. Her number was blocked by me. I wasn't finished, though. I was aware that Glenda had misled me about when the incident occurred. According to her, it started in March. However, I had evidence. 6 months prior to Glenda's alleged first kiss. In December, Fiona gave me a picture. It showed Glenda wearing a necklace I got her for our anniversary, while she sat on Kane's knee at a party on New Year's Eve. Their subtlety was lacking. Thus, I sent the picture to her UK employer once more in an anonymous manner. Not to ruin her career. Simply to ask inquiries. I found out she was put on probation a week later. Her reputation was already being questioned before she had even begun formally. A cooling-off period was required by the corporation before completing her onboarding. There is currently no information on whether she will be hired. I didn't do any of this to harm her, though. All I wanted was for her to experience some of the chaos she left behind. Perhaps, just perhaps, she would understand that leaving her family wasn't a clean break. Echoes follow actions. And mine was only getting started. I went even farther. I got in touch with our friends, the people she hadn't been completely honest with. She was never portrayed by me as a monster. I just told them what happened. She left, she gave up custody, and she moved in with a man who had cheated on her several times and showed no interest in parenting her children. I let the facts do the talking. The support she believed she had back home started to disappear one by one. When she discovered that Glenda had been secretly organizing this affair while grinning in our family photos, even her best friend Muriel stopped standing up for her. By Christmas, Glenda made another attempt to phone the children. I replied, "Only once." "Glenda," I said calmly, "you need to schedule it with me a week in advance if you want to speak to the kids. You don't simply stop by whenever it suits you. This no longer operates that way." She began to object. I ended the call. I don't despise her. I no longer anticipate regret. She had to understand, however, that leaving this household did not mean leaving unharmed. Not all forms of retaliation involve fireworks. Can be quiet at times. Tactical. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I simply seen her world fall apart. A one choice at a time. This is all still very much a work in progress, but maybe it will become easier with time. Even though I'm still a little startled by how things happened, I believe I've mostly come to terms with this new reality.